A remote First Nation community is celebrating as its reliance on diesel generators comes to an end. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Sandy Lake First Nation is now connected to the province's energy grid.
A day-long celebration was recently held in the community to ring in this new stage of Sandy Lake's history. Justin Hardy was there and joins us now in studio. And Justin, what kind of impact does this have?
This is going to have a huge impact on the people that live there, Riley. The community is only accessible by air during the majority of the year and via ice road during the short winter season. It used to rely completely on diesel fuel generators, but the new connection brings cheaper and much more reliable energy from the south. Sandy Lake First Nation, located about 600 kilometers northwest of Thunder Bay, invited in government officials and other stakeholders to celebrate the recent connection of the community to the province's power grid. The new connection provides much more reliable and less expensive power up from the south through Red Lake. Now that Sandy Lake is fully connected, Chief Dolores Kakagamic says the community can do away with energy priority lists when constructing new projects.
We can now hook up, whatever infrastructure, whatever housing, like in a timely manner rather than waiting 1-2 years. Like I said, we used to hook up house to house and get into trouble for it. But that was the only way to give power to your neighbor if they got a new residence.
Wataynikaneyap Power, majority owned by a partnership of 24 First Nations and in partnership with Fortis Inc. and other private investors, is a $1.9 billion project to build and operate the line that brings light. That's an 1,800-kilometer power transmission system that will connect 17 remote First Nations to the Ontario power grid. Margaret Kanekwanash, CEO of Wataynikaneyap Power, says that there is still a lot of work to do in terms of transferring assets as well as getting the agreements in place.
And there's some conditions that are included in from Hydro One in terms of being able to connect the communities and connecting them to the grid and energizing them. So we're hoping that the three communities towards Red Lake will be connected in the fall, and the other community we're possibly targeting first quarter of 2025. I'm thinking.
Sandy Lake is the latest First Nation connected to provincial power through the Wataynikaneyap Power Transmission System. Currently, 16 First Nations assets are energized, and a total of 12 communities are fully connected to the grid. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
A man missing from Casablanca Lake First Nation has been found dead in Sault Ste. Marie. Colton Brown was last seen leaving the Delta Hotel in the Sault around 4 p.m. last Friday, which was his 20th birthday, according to a band counselor from his community. He arrived in the city the day before as part of a college tour. On Sunday, police found him deceased in the St. Mary's River. Sault Ste. Marie police are asking anyone who saw Brown or had any interaction with him on the evening of June 21st or early in the morning of the 22nd to call police or Crime Stoppers.
A Brampton man faces a number of drug charges after OPP executed a search warrant in Thunder Bay. It happened on Friday afternoon on Newberry Crescent. Police found around 144 grams of fentanyl, along with smaller amounts of meth and ecstasy. 6 rounds of ammunition were also discovered. The 31-year-old Brampton man faces drug trafficking charges and will remain in custody with a future court date.
A Mississauga woman also faces drug trafficking charges after a traffic stop on Highway 1117 in Shunya. It happened last week when officers found 2.4 kilograms of cocaine. A 23-year-old has been in custody since the arrest. She was scheduled to appear before the Ontario Court of Justice in Thunder Bay today.
The Thunder Bay Public Library has revealed its proposed centralized location at Intercity Shopping Centre would cost $16 million to construct.
That's part of the library's 2024 Master Facilities Plan that still needs to be discussed by City Council. Jessa Clement has the details.
After months of research, the Thunder Bay Public Library now has a detailed report presenting 3 scenarios for the library system's future. The first option would be maintaining the status quo, which would keep things as they are. The other 2 options feature the construction of a new central library inner city and the closure of Brody Library, and the possible closure of the County Park branch. Library CEO Richard Togman says any change would have a huge effect on how the library system will function.
Whatever way we move forward beyond the status quo sees an over 40% increase in the amount of library space, an over 25% increase in the amount of hours of operation. And for us, that's game changer, right? Being able to offer evenings and weekends so we can service working families really well, being able to expand the physical space we have so we can do all the programs, expand our collection, work on partnerships. Those things are essential to us.
If the central library options were to move forward, Togman notes the total construction cost would be over $16 million. The city would be asked to pay half of that, and the library would be committed to raise the other $8 million. Togman says the report shows adding and maintaining a central location is a better investment than pouring money into antiquated infrastructure.
From an operating cost perspective, from an annual cost perspective, a 3-branch system is actually a net tax saver for the city. We're actually spending, saving our tax dollars, even though we're increasing the amount of space by over 40% and over 25% more hours. So they've seen that as a very appealing option. And even the scenario where we maintain 4 branches with the central library, it's about $500,000 more expensive. But when we look at what that really delivers for the community, that's a huge bang for our buck.
Head librarian Ruth Hamlin Douglas says having a central location will give them the opportunity to provide more programming for community members and partners.
With changes to space, one of the things that we've talked about extensively is like a teen gaming area, which if you look around you, we don't currently have. We're also looking at expanding our adult programming. We see more older adults who are looking for ways to connect. We want to be able to provide, our core programming, but expand that core programming to support more members of our community.
The 2024 master plan will be presented to Council on July 22nd. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Tonight, the response to the homelessness crisis will once again be discussed by City Council. It comes as recent estimates show that more than 150 people are currently living outdoors. That's an increase over this time last year. The report coming to Council offers a few potential responses, including a built structure pilot project. If the city moves forward with that option, a specific site would be established that could accommodate up to 23 cabins. The site would also feature a shower, washroom, and laundry units. McKellar Councillor Brian Hamilton says if the city wants to consider designated sites, location will be crucial.
People are going to where they feel comfortable, and in the most part, they're choosing sites that probably align with a designated camp policy. We're seeing that that just happen naturally and organically. Our community partners are being able to serve at these sites, and if our community partners, and we need to let them lead, like that's absolutely critical. They're the ones on the ground.
We're at least a year away from seeing any significant openings of affordable housing. But even that won't nearly reach the number of people we need to. So we need to have some interim solutions. And I feel like this report is a really great start on that.
The report recommends distance guidelines for designated encampments, noting they should be at least 100 meters from a school and 20 meters from any private property line.
Also on this evening's council agenda, whether or not to ratify a decision to designate some parkettes as surplus, allowing housing units to be built on the property to hit the city's ambitious targets. Yesterday, a gathering was held at the Woodside Parkette among residents looking to save it. About 40 people were there speaking on the benefits the green space brings the community. Some residents will take their advocacy to City Hall tonight. They're set to make a deputation asking for a 6-month delay on the decision. Kevin Green believes the city should look to build housing elsewhere instead of taking away parkettes.
The green space is very important because a lot of the older families that have moved out of this neighborhood in the last, say, 10 years has been supplanted with young kids, growing families, and they need a place to play. That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that council considers everything and not just this.
The neighborhood does have the Hogarth Parkette one street over, and the city isn't planning to develop that space. Tonight, council will also continue the conversation about 3 parkettes that had previously been spared on Thistle Crescent, Thornlow Drive, and Holly Crescent. Councillor Brian Hamilton is asking council to put these lots back on the surplus list, arguing that tough decisions need to be made if the city wants to hit its housing targets.
Thunder Bay's waterfront is getting an upgrade. Volunteers were out today planting vegetation along the Pool 6 site. The project is part of a larger plan to rehabilitate the Lake Superior shoreline. Members of the North Shore of Lake Superior Remedial Action Plans, the Lakehead Region Conservation Authority, and the city planted roughly 100 small trees and shrubs and 1,500 small plants. The goal is to help restore the former industrial site with native vegetation to beautify the area and help restore the ecosystem. North Shore Lake Superior Remedial Action Plan Coordinator Tim Hollinger says the project is a great opportunity for the community to connect with the lake.
For so much of the course of Thunder Bay's history, it's been largely industrial, but with these projects, when you look at Fisherman's Park West, which has been led by the LRCA, projects happening at Boulevard Lake. We also have one at the former Superior Fine Papers property, where we're doing some stream and wetland restoration. These projects aren't just for fish and wildlife, they're for the public, for recreation opportunity at the waterfront. Really just providing more access to our waterfront.
Residents are encouraged to join in on the group's next planting day. Details can be found on the Remedial Action Plan's website.
Construction will begin shortly on a new pedestrian bridge at George Burke Park. The bridge will connect the River Terrace area to existing trails in the park. The project comes after the city salvaged road girders when rebuilding the Edward Street Bridge. Those will be used for the George Burke Park crossing and some work at the marina. The total price tag is about $1 million. City project engineer Mike Vogrid talks about the benefits the bridge will bring the community.
They were looking at the trail network. They found there was a big detour, say, for any kids in River Terrace going to school or the high school, and this provides a more direct connection. Hopefully cut down on maybe having to drive to school. It kind of gives a more direct, shorter connection to walk there if the kids and families so choose.
The plan is to have the pedestrian bridge finished before the upcoming school year.
Members of the public and user groups were recently invited to an open house to help the city understand how residents use their community centers. The feedback from the meeting will be used to help update the 7-year-old Recreation and Facilities Master Plan. The city has also asked residents to answer an online survey about the 9 neighborhood community centers. Attendees at the recent open house were able to learn what's been heard so far and provide additional feedback. The input will also tie into the city's asset management plan. Supervisor of Community Development Paul Burke says they want to get a sense of what's working well within the centers and what needs to change.
What I think what we've really realized and reinforced for us is the importance of community centers in neighborhoods and in our community. They play a really vital role in recreation program delivery, but also in the whole sense of neighborhood that people in our community feel.
The next steps are to conclude our discussions on the ground, and we'll be preparing a report with recommendations to council as to what the future investments are and other strategies to help maintain these facilities over the next decade.
The Ford government continues to face backlash in the City of Toronto over the decision to abruptly shutter the Ontario Science Centre.
Critics say the government allowed it to fall into disrepair to justify a move to its preferred location. CTV's John Woodward has that story.
This is frustrating.
Toronto artist and photographer Leala Hewitt had planned to take photos of the Ontario Science Centre on Monday.
Of course, Raymond Moriyama, this is one of his masterpieces. It's an amazing building.
She may never get another chance. New fences kept her out, put up as the provincial government endorsed a plan to close the building after an engineering report said some parts of the roof were at risk of failure.
It was my hope that we could keep the building alive until the new Science Centre was built, but unfortunately we have to take the warning signs of engineers very seriously.
The controversial smaller replacement at Ontario Place the province has been pushing won't be finished until at least 2028. The news devastating to those who grew up visiting the Science Centre and to parents who had hoped summer programming would continue. Hundreds attended a weekend rally calling to save the building.
There's so many school field trips, so many summer programs, so many summer camps.
But a close reading of the engineer's report appears to indicate there were other options besides a dramatic, rushed closure.
There was a lot of time there in which things could have happened or didn't happen.
University of Toronto professor Sanford Borens reviewed the report. He says the Science Centre already fixed the most critical panels. The engineer's top recommendation was restricted access or full closure to prevent any persons from walking in areas where high-risk panels are present. The remaining high-risk panels make up just 6% of the roof, Boren says. To repair that, a cost of under $8 million in the first year. The report indicates the Science Center was aware of this months ago, Boren said, but didn't act.
It seems to me that they had already come to their conclusion that they wanted to close the building, and the consultant's report was a great justification for doing that.
There's no reason that the roof can't be repaired.
Councillor Josh Matlow says the city's deal with the province included an agreement to find a new use for the building. He's now pushing to save it.
They could fix the Science Centre if they choose to. And my motion at City Council is challenging the Ford government to work with us to save the Science Centre for everyone who loves it and has always loved it since 1969.
If that doesn't happen, a building that would cost millions to save will be hit with a wrecking ball, even though to many Ontarians, it's priceless. John Woodward, CTV News.
Thunder Bay's oldest park celebrated a huge milestone this weekend.
Hundreds of people made their way to Waverly Park for music and activities to commemorate its 150th anniversary. Jess Clement was there.
Waverly Park has been serving the Thunder Bay public as green space since 1871. And to celebrate over 150 years, a picnic was held on Sunday.
It is the oldest park in Thunder Bay. It is the second oldest in Ontario. And you just look at this massive green space here, you know, you look at the large trees. It's just a place where people want to gather. It's a place where you know, there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of fun to be had here. But it's also like a place where people have demonstrations, a place where people have their graduations and weddings. And like this park is special to so many in this community.
David George Noonan, president of the Waverly Park Coalition, says they wanted to do something special for the big milestone. Hundreds came out for the event, and attendees were up on their feet dancing to the music performed by the Roy Coran Big Band and Rodney Brown. The coalition brought in other forms of entertainment for the younger visitors, including outdoor games and the Thunder Bay Clown Club. Noonan says it's great to see everyone out enjoying the park, especially with the threat of rain earlier in the day.
It is so great to see so many people here. Like there's several hundred people here today, and it just really gets you going. You know, it gets you very excited about things to come and what we can do with this park.
We spoke to some attendees and asked what they enjoyed most about spending the day at Waverly Park.
It's pretty fun. We got this face paint done for free. I got face paint, and from the Thunder Bay Clown Club, it was very good experience.
Everybody here is so nice.
Face paint.
Are you saying why?
Because the clowns did it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, this is such a good location, and then we come Monday nights during the summer as well. So it's convenient, and there's always so many things to do around here. Pretty spot.
And Noonan says there's more fun up ahead as the Waverly Park Concert Series starts July 8th at 6:30 p.m. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Local taste buds went on a trip around the world this weekend as the Tapestry Women's Network hosted its 4th annual ethnic food picnic. Attendees were able to celebrate Thunder Bay's diversity, try international cuisine, and watch cultural dances. The Moose Hall was packed Sunday afternoon with attendees eager to try the various foods made by local home chefs and caterers. The event had around 20 vendors from different parts of the world who were happy to be able to share their culture through food and drink. Tapestry co-founder Rupa Rakshit says she loves that the event showcases Thunder Bay's cultural diversity.
The diverse multicultural communities celebrate. We are celebrating culture, we are celebrating food, we are celebrating just being together, connections, networking.
Even though it's diversity and multicultural, this whole multiculturalism actually comes together and unifies us as Canadian, as Thunder Bay citizens. So that's what we are proud of.
I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed that event.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure a lot of people brought home a
lot of snacks.
Very good
for
food.
Sure. I didn't.
Fiona, yeah, you were telling
one
me
of them.
earlier
Okay.
today that you definitely enjoyed that event.
Oh, yes, I did. If you have not tried it before, folks, I have to tell you, give it a try next year. It is wonderful. And they moved it indoors this year because they seem to have the worst luck with the weather. So we did have rain try to push its way in throughout the day today. For the most part, though, it has been trekking in a southeasterly direction. So that's why we got a lot of that cloud building in over the last 5-6 hours. No rain, but definitely cloud. But there is precipitation to the northwest, and that's why there's a severe thunderstorm watch for areas closer to the Manitoba border. I'm talking about Red Lake, Kenora, and the like. Now, today in Thunder Bay, we had a low of 10, a high of 24, and winds started out very light, 4-5 kilometers an hour. It was just in the last few hours it started to kick up a bit, but we still managed to see the humidex top out at 27. That is very seasonal for this time of year, even slightly above. Across the region, similar temperatures. We've got 27 in Fort Frances, Red Lake, Dryden, Armstrong, Sioux Lookout, and then we start to inch our way down. The humidex values throughout these areas are all in the low 30s, 31 to 33. Greenstone at 24, loads of sunshine, but winds are gusting up to 60 kilometers per hour. Here in the city of Thunder Bay, we are going to see a very mild night, a low of 15, but increasing cloud, chance of a thunderstorm, and a 40% chance of showers heading into tomorrow. Now, things are actually looking not horrible for tomorrow, and temperatures are going to rise, but it comes with a little bit of everything. So it's going to be one of those days when you want to plan for just about every possibility.
All right, well, thank you very much for the warning, Fiona. Let's turn our attention to international news now. The Canadian government is considering following in the footsteps of the U.S. and slapping a tariff on electric vehicles from China. We'll tell you more about that when your news hour continues right after the break.
Nothing is ruled out, and all possible tools are on the table.